Graham Frost with a speech entitled True Confessions. With a speech entitled True Confessions, please welcome Graham Frost.
I was born in Essex. That's my big confession. In the county where Ford cars were made. In the town where radio was invented. My father's first car was a Ford, and I've also always driven Fords. Through Escorts, a Cortina, various different Orions, and once even a brief flirtation with a Fiesta. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to take you into the 1970s. When Ford cars were everywhere. There was a car called a Ford Escort Mexico that was very famous because it won a lot of Monte Carlo rallies. And you could see Ford Escort Mexicos everywhere, and people used to suit them up, customise them, with go faster stripes, fat tyres, and sometimes they would have their names emblazoned across the windscreen. So you might have Noel and Gaynor, or Rex and Cayenne, or in my case, most of the time, Graham and Vacant. People also used to have furry dice hanging down, and even nodding toy dogs on the back parcel shelf, looking out dolefully at the occupants of the car behind. Now, I had cause to remember this many years later. I'd like now to take you to the turn of the last century, when I was a man in the prime of life, in my mid-40s, still single. And I discovered the joys of internet dating. What a murky world it was to get involved in. Because in those days there were no proper internet dating sites. You just had to hope you'd meet the right person in a chat room. One night I was sitting in my spare bedroom, about 11:30 at night, just about to log off and go to bed because I had to go to work the next day, when this little box popped up in the corner of my computer screen. And it was a lady called Louise from Dundee in Scotland. I thought it would be rude to refuse to talk to her. So I acknowledged her, and she proceeded to tell me her whole life story by typing it out over the next hour and a half. Now, fellow Toastmasters, those of you who know me now know that it's very difficult to silence me. I talk a lot, but this woman had the knack of silencing me. I didn't get a word in edgeways for a whole hour and a half. However, there was something about her that I liked. I don't know what it was. And I agreed to meet her in Edinburgh 2 weeks later on a Saturday afternoon. So I got the train up to Edinburgh, she got the train a short distance down from Dundee, and we'd arranged to meet under the clock on Edinburgh Waverley Station. Now, fellow Toastmasters, it might surprise you that I've never in my life been mistaken for George Clooney. But I haven't. Now, I can tell you that this dear lady from Dundee, Louise, and I, we were both in exactly the same place in the queue when the looks were given out. So we must have found something attractive about each other, and eventually, after a couple of hours of chatting, I decided to go for it. I thought, right, I'm going to invite her down to spend the weekend with me in Peterborough. So, a couple of weeks later, Louise turned up at Peterborough Station, and I went down in the car to meet her. When she pulled her suitcase across the station, immediately I saw this suitcase, and it was huge. It was like this size. It was probably the biggest suitcase I'd ever seen. And I thought, well, surely, what could she possibly have in there? She's only here for 2 days. And then when I dragged it round to the car and went to heave it into the boot of the car, it was really heavy. And I thought, I won't ask. I didn't want to know at that stage what was in there. I thought it can't all be clothes, not just the 2 nights. Eventually, the suitcase found its way into my bedroom. And it was opened, and in the suitcase was this huge box and a few clothes and a wash bag. So I immediately asked a question, Louise, what's in the box? Oh, that's your Christmas present, she said. Christmas present. This is the very early stages of a relationship that I wasn't even sure was going to happen. And there she was buying me a Christmas present. I hadn't even thought about buying her one. She said, what I want you to do, on Christmas morning, I want you to phone me and open the present while you're on the phone to me. So the weekend went quite well. Christmas morning arrived a few weeks later, and I woke up about 8 o'clock and I went downstairs, made a cup of tea, went back to bed, dragged this box out from under the bed, and took the wrapping paper off it, and I thought, well, I'd better ring her. So I rang her. If you could imagine trying to open presents with a phone in one hand, talking to somebody, only having one. Men can't do that sort of thing very well. So in the box there were 4 or 5 other parcels. The first parcel that came out of the box was a picture of Dundee. Wonderful, really inspiring, to go on the mantelpiece in the front room. The second present that came out of the box was 2 round wax candles with smiley faces on them to go in the bathroom. And she said, they will remind you of me. She said, I'm giving you something to put in every room of your house to remind you of me. So I said, okay. And the next thing that came out of the box was 2 large mugs. One with Gemini on it and the other one with Sagittarius on it. Yes, you got it right. They were to go in the kitchen. There was also an expensive watch, which the hands fell off of a few weeks later. But the pièce de résistance, ladies and gentlemen, that took me back to my childhood and youth in Essex was this wonderful piece of Essex engineering to go on the back seat of my car. Madame Comtesse chair.